Alright, Fluffles, I see your notes, sir. I'm still settling, waiting for the signal to stabilize. Should be good in a few minutes. Just give me a second here. I see your notes. I got that. I gotta work on today's chart, okay? Give me a second to catch up. I see some notes notes. I see your notes, Ivona. Thank you very much. Check. You got it. You got it. Fluffles. Check. Notes. You got it. Let's see if there's anybody else who needs a reading. So anyway, we're just getting started. I can probably handle one more, maybe two more, if my throat will hold out. We'll see what happens. Hello, Neba. I don't know if I'm going to say that right. Neba Ayuta Wu. Peace, love, and light. Happy vibrations to you. Thank you very much. How did you find this channel? I've been doing this here for, what, 7, 8 years now? I missed a few. I missed a few shows. Actually, quite a few. But still alive and telling the tale. Now let's just put these aside for a minute. We'll get to it. If you're on the road, Ivona, so we'll just take our time, okay? So this is the chart that I've written for today. The moon is up here in Libra, very close to Venus. So if you're feeling very sensitive about relationships, you have an excuse. You can blame the planets. What about the sun in Libra in a very hard square with Jupiter in Cancer? Oh no. Never fear, even a hard square with Jupiter can sometimes bring, well, often bring unexpected, let's say, knowledge, wisdom, healing, benefits of some kind. It might just arrive in the form of the laws of unexpected consequences. In other words, you might be feeling pissed off about something because it's not going right, but then you realize, click, wait a minute, it was never supposed to be right in the way that I thought or I believed. Jupiter is very much about beliefs and belief systems. Squared by the sun lighting it up and saying, dear person, are your belief systems actually aligned with your true beliefs? In other words, your core soul beliefs relative to your three-dimensional brain rattling around. So there. Let me check in so that you know this is a real person. Okay. I am not an artificial intelligence app. I am a real person. I do live mini tarot readings on Sunday evenings. Recently it's been difficult because I've been kind of under the weather and feeling pretty fragile. All sorts of excuses you can imagine. The planets, of course, number one. What else? The planets. Friends and family. Bubba. Been stressing about little Bubba. Little Cutie, the goldfish, just died. I felt very kind of miserable. I just made a list of all the people that I know who died in the last few years. Kind of made me sad. Things like that. The impermanence of life, the fleeting nature of our life on this planet. And I started, wallowing in self-pity. I gave myself permission because Jupiter is in Cancer. It's triggering a certain aspect of my chart, overblowing it, making it feel like, oh, woe is me. Oh my God, woe is me. And it's really not that bad. It feels that it's that way. And I've been wallowing in these sort of feelings of like, oh God, I never did this, I never did that, I never got to do this, I never got to do that. I was betrayed by this person, that place, that job, those employers, those bankers, those thieves, whatever it was. Just a whole list of negatives. But I figure, well, things are still moving along. Can't be that bad. I had to do a lot of doctor visits. Turns out I'm not doing too badly. Anyway, so how's everybody else? I want to say, yeah, you can go last. Yeah, little Bubba, he's got dental issues. And I used the colloidal silver and it really helped. And he's kind of stabilized. He hasn't got the really major discomfort. He's just pawing at his jaw now and again because it's obviously something uncomfortable going on in there. And I've tried to sort of get in and pick away at it, but it's difficult. He's a cat. He doesn't like people sticking fingers in his mouth, okay? You lost a lot of family members, friends, and pets in the recent years. Yeah, the list got very long. It makes you realize, man, we're not here for that long. I was thinking a lot about my childhood recently, and I was in my own way a very, very lucky little child. Very, very fortunate in my own little unique way. I don't know if I will ever leave a legacy of any kind. I always wanted to leave a legacy, leave something behind that is permanent, way beyond my lifespan. And I realized very early on I was really good with art and music and writing, but my parents thought, oh, no, none of that crazy stuff. You're going to be a doctor. Okay. Anyway, I tried and I tried and I tried, and I eventually, after many attempts, qualified to go into a university, and study biological science. It wasn't enough to be a doctor or anything, but it was something where you could get a job. When I qualify, I would have to wear a white lab coat and stand up in laboratories all day mixing chemicals, probably end up working for a major drug company doing horrific experiments on animals or something horrible. And I just thought, I don't want to do this. I can't do it. And so I became very rebellious, and that was the end of that. I just wanted to go to the art school. I begged my parents, dear Mom and Dad, please just let me go to the little Bath Art College down in town. And they were like, are you kidding? That's just for locals who don't have anything else to do, like little hippies or something. I went, no, it's an art college for people like me. Music and art and like creativity. No. Anyway. Let's go to the chart for today so you can see all the reasons that you can to blame the planets for all your misery and suffering, but also for good fortune. So here we are. I've been doing this pretty much every day over on my other channel. You might have heard about it. It's TarotLumination, but it's on the other platform. And they stopped me from posting links to my other platform on YouTube, so I just don't do it anymore, and it's like being invisible. Anyway, so we still have this massive long-term ongoing triangle here. It's a beautiful fat trine supported by two very powerful sextiles. So it's very powerful, very nutritious, very supportive, fantastic for opportunity, healing, growth, and ultimately evolution at the deepest part of our souls, okay? The tricky part is that a lot of people don't want to evolve. They don't like to evolve because it means fundamental change at the depths of our soul, especially when we're talking about Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. So as wonderful as this is, it's also extremely challenging. And a lot of people are struggling. It's literally an amazing once in 1,000 years opportunity to evolve. But oh man, evolution is tough. Let's see, one of the tricky parts. Neptune, Saturn, and Uranus are still retrograde. Okay? Neptune is flipping into Pisces, Saturn's already in Pisces. So what it's doing, it's calling out a lot of pain, suffering, indications of how and why we might be sick, how we might betray ourselves, how we let other people betray us, and all the evil that you could imagine around the world. That's what I do. I deal with that in my other channel. And Saturn is demanding accountability. In other words, we want the facts, we want evidence, we want to name and identify the nature of the disease, the illness, the sickness from which you are suffering, and then hold it accountable and try to find a cure. Thank you very much. It's heavily supported by this ongoing big kite, but that kite is fading. We're still going to have this. Now, next. Over the last, say 5 or 7 years or so, we've been living with Capricorn, Pisces, Taurus energy, which is very harmonious together. This same triangle is kind of on the cusp right now, but for 7 years or so, this triangle, instead of being like this, it was more like this. It's hard to do, but anyway, it went from it was like this for 7 years or so. But now it's at a pivotal point where it's changing from this to this. So the Capricorn, Pisces, Taurus energy is very different to what's coming in 2026. Late this year in 2026, we're going to have Aquarius, Aries, Gemini. My personal opinion is everyone's going to start feeling jittery, as though they've had too much coffee. Even if you don't drink coffee, your brain might be going too fast. Your nervous system might feel overloaded, overcharged. You might be very anxious about things with no explanation. Just basically a little bit hyper. Now, if the Aquarius, Aries, Gemini aspects are in a harsh placement for you personally, then you might feel it in a negative way. Very hard to handle. But it's still got this beautiful fat triangle. So I'm just kind of giving you a heads up for the long term here. Over the last 10 days or so, we've had an extremely hard fat T-square, which has now more or less disappeared, but it existed right here. It looked like this. Okay, it looked like this. Here, here, here. It created tremendous amounts of instability and uneasiness in the foundations of people's lives all over the world. Financial institutions, companies, corporations, countries were starting to show signs of extreme instability with their culture, whether it's, Jews in Israel, all the Muslims in the Arab countries, all the Christians in Christian countries, and so on, all the communist countries, all of it feeling very, very, very uneasy, and then wanting to blame each other for their own internal problems. So, that would be a very obvious reason why anybody might have felt very sick and uneasy over the last 10 days or so. We had the spectacular peace deal drafted and crafted over in the Middle East. It's very, very fragile because of that horrible thing here recently. And we also have a peace deal being brokered between Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin, and Vladimir Zelensky, probably very fragile, and it's going to play out over the next month or so. In the meantime, let's get back to the personals. Hold on, what's that? Is Bubba getting vitamins and minerals as well as probiotics? And I think I mentioned sea moss gel. What? Love driver, kefir and goat's milk are great for teeth and mouth health. Why? I never. Okay, I don't recall that part. You sent me lots of material, but I can't remember it. I've got some of the links, but I can't remember all of it. I had a few videos and so on. All right. All right, let me go over here. I want to chat to the public, the general public. Let's see, how do I do that over here? Come on, little computer. Oh my God, my computer is literally, poor thing, it just, oh. All right. So if anyone's feeling rich, please make a large donation, because my little computer is basically falling apart. It was great in the early days, but the heat in Las Vegas plus a lot of heavy use has taken a toll. It's like a very old little car that's struggling. Anyway, yeah, if anyone's out there watching, you've never seen this before, this is brand new, you can go over here, TarotLumination.com. You can just, go to another tab or a device or something, go to TarotLumination.com. You can put in a donation and get a live mini reading. We've done it thousands of times. You know the drill. So I just thought I'd mention that. Okay. All right, in the meantime, let me see what... All right, so I got Fluffles, Neba, and Ivona. I'm going to just try and see if anyone else showed up. No, we got a very, very small crowd tonight. Well, it looks like it from here. I can hardly tell. Okay. All right. I'm still in touch with Mr. Gregory Ross. He's a lively fellow. He may show up later on, I don't know. I haven't heard from Tina Miller in quite a while, but again, it's because I've been very, I'd say, absent on the channel here and doing readings. You know, people forget. If I don't show up and it doesn't get the notifications, that people don't know. So it's kind of sad in that way. But we're all, when I look at the astrology, we're all shifting, evolving, and changing whether we like it or know it or not. It's just a tremendous pressure. When I work on my other channel, I'm really focusing on the global astrology for the whole of our species. And I find it much more natural for me to operate that way. But I still do the deep dive personal readings in case anyone's interested. What I do is, it's like, for example, the little chart I just showed you. I would bring up the chart like that, which is basically the transits for the day or the season, and then I would match that up with your existing personal astrology, and it's amazing what you can discover. You know, where your weak points are, where the challenges may be, and that could be any subject. If you look at astrology in houses, like in Western astrology, which is what I do a very simplified Western style astrology. I just deal with the 12 famous sun signs, the 12 houses, and the planets. So for example, over here on this little illustration, we've got Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, and so on. There's Gemini, there's Taurus, there's Aries at the top. And it looks different for everybody, and you're born with planets in certain moments. It's like a timestamp. It's like a genetic astrology timestamp, which matches your, I call it like spiritual DNA, your spiritual birthmark, and it's very specific, and you can look at it from different ways. Like if it's a love and relationship or a very important relationship between yourself and another person, I would bring up your chart plus the chart of another person. I would marry them together in what's called a composite chart. That's on the understanding that the people are already pretty evolved in their own way, and they can handle a full-blown relationship. Now that's not very common, frankly. If someone's getting a relationship reading, it's often because the parties are relating like this, which is fine, but in a really healthy, evolved relationship, the parties relate to each other through a third party entity called the relationship itself. And that relationship has its own identity in astrology, in case you're not aware. And that can be kind of an eye-opener or really mind-blowing when you look at it that way. And then you start to realize, oh my God, now I understand what's working and what's not working and why and how and so on. So that's what I do when I do the personal stuff, deep, deep inside. Again, it's all, again, I do it because I've been doing this a long time, but I also had some very good teachers over very long periods of years, and I've just condensed it into my own personal astrology, and I just try to keep it simple and intelligible for people who are curious. And the only time people ever get readings is when there's something happening in their life that is they're not getting results or answers from, friends or family, or reading books or therapists or doctors, and they just accidentally stumble on this channel and they think, oh, okay, well, what have I got to lose? So Ivona, you know all this already. Fluffles, you know all this already, but I'm kind of doing a background here because I haven't done this for a long time. The Sunday night shows, because I've been so sick and things. So I thought I'd give a little bit of background. So on a personal reading, for example, it would be very much like what we're doing here, but it would be private. Everything would be private, and it would all be recorded, and you, the owner of the personal private reading, would receive a recording, like a show, like a little movie, and that would be yours for all time. I have to record it, load it up to the hard drive, and then up to storage, and then process it down through storage, and then send it through as a file by email, which you then download and you keep it and store it for yourself on your systems. Because I can't store stuff for long here, it's too expensive, so I don't. I just keep the files for like a couple weeks or maybe a month, and then I have to delete everything. So I don't really have a lot of records on anybody. If anybody, and I've got hundreds and hundreds of charts for people with whom I've done readings, but I don't store any of it in my head. Oh, let's have a look over here. Okay, so what's going on, people? How's your world going? Let's have a look over here. Let's see. Okay. I'm just checking in on the chat. Okay, well, type it in if you've got any particular weird issues or questions, and we'll see if we can get it into the form of a mini reading, or maybe build a conversation, or try and distill some answers out of the subject, okay? Alright, so what I might do, so I haven't seen anyone else log in, so it's probably going to be a very lonely, small, quiet, private, boutique, artisanal show this evening. I have to tell you, some of you know I used to earn my living from doing this. It's almost impossible anymore because despite many attempts and revisions, I got yours, Fluffles, don't worry. Despite many attempts over the years, Google has refused to, let's say, do the healing on my particular algorithm. So anything and everything that goes wrong or that's not functional about my channel is my fault. Now, in some ways that's true because I'm just not putting out the sheer volume of content that I used to put out. But it's just the way YouTube works is not just about how much stuff you pump out there. It has to be stuff that complies and fits in with the Google YouTube algorithm, which is built around their belief systems. In other words, I have to talk about the right subjects at the right time to the right people for the right reasons. And if I go outside of that, I become controversial and then they crush me. And so basically it kind of destroyed everything. But I still love doing the little shows. But really now I'm left basically constantly having to ask for donations because that's the only way any kind of revenue comes in. I still, in theory, get revenue from YouTube because of past content and because I'm putting out a show every week. But it's below the earnings threshold, so I never get paid. They keep it all, which makes me kind of angry and pissed off. I don't want to complain too much because then you just build up a vortex of misery around yourself. I don't want to do that to myself. What I have to do here is, okay, I got to shut up about these bad things. Yeah, okay. All right, shut up. Shut up, TL. All right, let me go over here. I think what I'll do is get on with my reading for Ivona, and that'll... Wait a minute, why is this thing record? Hold on, there's something... I'm putting... The computer's really struggling. I'm going to stop the recording because it said it's recording. It doesn't have to be because that's just putting more load. I just want to do the live show because we're already totally maxed out. My whole studio here, it's like driving a little tiny Chevy Spark or, a Kia Rio with 3 or 4 cylinders trying to go uphill as fast as you can. It's very, very challenging. All right, so what I'm going to do is, let's go over here. We'll get set up for the readings. I'm going to get Ivona set up first of all, okay? Get some cards going here. Let's see how that works. Okay. Okay, hold on. Give me a second. Come on, little computer, you can do it. Okie dokie. Let's put this over here. Okay, let's put that over here. Alright, let's see what happens. Okie dokie, let's go over here. Alright. We'll come back to this if we need it during the readings, okay? Alright, here we go. Put that over here. This could be... Oh, you know what I should do? Here's what I should do. I forgot to do this earlier. This is my ephemeris from which I derive my charts. Okay, so you may or may not be aware, but in a few days we have a new moon. Okay, the sun will be in, hold on, let me see. Gotta get this dead right because we're right close to the cusp here. New moon is on the 20, when is it? 21st, okay. So the sun will be in Libra and the moon will be in Libra. Okay, so there. So just FYI. On Tuesday, we're going to have the Libra new moon. So it's very, very late in Libra. There's the Libra sun. There's the Libra moon. And on Tuesday morning, the moon's going to be right up here, very, very close to the crisis degrees. So there might be a sensation of deep uneasiness in the world of love and relationships for anybody across planet Earth. You might not feel it at all, but the potential is there. Let's put it that way. I'm not saying it's probable. I'm just saying it's a possibility, like a potential. Also, here's another thing about the new moons in general. This is a Libra new moon, so it's new starts and new beginnings in Libra. In other words, love and relationships and harmony and peace and so on. Hopefully for the Middle East and for Russia, Ukraine, and so on. But what about on the personal level? Sure. Now here's the thing. Like there's the moon. It goes like this. Every 28 days it does this, okay? 28 days, and that's basically a complete lunar cycle. So over here we're just finishing up 28 days from the last new moon. And so what tends to happen in the 2 or 3 days before the new moon, things get, in my world, in my experience, things get very kind of quiet, uneasy, and mellow. It makes it feel like, you know, things are, it's like a wilting flower, a sad wilting plant that it's lived the end of its life. And it looks all sad and weak and feeble. And then a few days later, it starts to blossom again. So in my personal world, I allow for about 6 days where things can feel very, very muted, soft, gentle, mellow, where I really would rather just hide from the rest of the world. I don't want anything to do with people or relationship challenges or issues. I just want to hibernate, you know. And then when the new moon energy starts to pick up for the next 28 days, then I'll start to emerge and engage with the world. So if you're feeling very sort of woozy and delicate, you can blame it all on the planets, okay? That's right there. And that shows up right here, okay? Just letting you know. Which also happens to coincide very closely with this extremely challenging period in astrology right here, where Neptune is crossing retrograde back into Pisces at the crisis degree. So All sorts of fragilities may be exposed at the personal scale, at the global scale, about things that are not working for you deep, deep down in your life. It's better if you just let it out. Don't try to hide it or bury it or pretend it's not happening. My voice, my throat is very fragile. Even if I could, I'd love to do like 3, 4, 5 readings, but I don't know if it's just not happening. All right, Ivona, here we go. I'm going to shuffle up for you. Are you ready? If you're driving or something like that, don't worry about it. Just concentrate on your driving. You can watch the reaction replay later on. All right. I see your notes, Ivona. Thank you very much. Cards are nicely shuffled. Again, I'm always baffled. Why is this deck operating like it's brand new? I mean, I can see a few scratch marks from shuffling over the years, but frankly, I think it's very strange that they're just literally like brand new. All right, what kind of messages do we have tonight for Ivona regarding business and financials? Please. You know the routine. I like to imagine vividly that we are in our own little sort of camper's paradise. I like to picture a very gentle, warm beach with grass and sand and trees, gentle waves, and we're on a beautiful little turf, picnic benches, a little bonfire area, some tents, and some little homemade, porta potties and food and storage. And we can just all hang out. And then we circle ourselves around the campfire and we invite our invisible friends, our guardian angels, all in vivid technicolor to assist and support. Okay? So I invite you to do the same, because that's what I do here. That's how I get my invisible friends to hang out, and they love it. It's literally like going to a barbecue party in your own backyard at sunset, with a beautiful sunset. Birds are twittering, very gentle breeze, the ocean waves lapping in the background, mountains, hills, and forests in the distance. All right, Ivona, let's have a look, see what's going on. Messages for Ivona regarding business and finance. Here we go. Okay, here's the situation. Here's the challenges. Here's how we're going to handle things, okay, going forward. Remember, anyone who's not seen this before, this is my situational spread. I have 3 spreads that I use only. That's really it. I don't use all the conventional spreads. I had to go total custom and do what works for me personally as a reader. So this is like a diagnostic tool. Same thing you get when you go to an auto tech guy complaining that your check engine light is flashing, you don't know what's happening, please help, 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 help. They plug in the little black box and boom, it tells you, oh, it's your mass air sensor. Fix it. There you go. You got to reveal it to heal it. That's all we're doing. Okay, let's have a look. External influences. Let's have a look here. So we got the 7 of Wands. Okay, so do not fear, Ivona. Everything is exactly as it should be. Why is that so? How is that so? It's because it can't be any other way. Life is what it is. Every day we wake up to new challenges, okay? Whether we have brought those challenges to ourselves or whether they are just circumstantial to your life or whether they're being brought upon you by nefarious entities that seem to have no name, maybe like the banking industry or corporate culture or something like that, which would make anything to do with your business and finances feel uneasy. Uneasy to the point where it's just like, oh God, is this happening again? In other words, I'm gonna, oh man, like it's enough to struggle with life as it is just to get by. But every now and again, things pile up in ways you feel like, well, I'm going to have to take this on head on. But luckily, with the 7 of Wands, you're in a very strong position, okay? You might not, want to be in that position, but you're strong, okay? And you're certainly going to hold up, partly because you have to, and partly because it's just part of the struggles of life. Getting our business, our personal business, our finances in order is an incredibly important part of life. And of course, right now, with the world financial systems in complete, utter meltdown, well, you wouldn't be the only one in this position. I guarantee the global financial system, the Federal Reserve and all the central banks, plus all of Wall Street, they're all trying to figure out what the hell is going on. I've got my own opinions, but I'm not going to share that much. Here, let's have a look. What's the situation itself? Okay. See, this is very inspiring. We got the Ace of Swords here. So this is a sacred opportunity, a chance of new starts, new beginnings. So let's just align this with the Libra new moon, which is quickly going to dive into Scorpio energy once the sun moves into Scorpio, which is all about big money, other people's money, banking, retirement funds, 401ks, pensions, savings accounts, credit cards, loans, mortgages, all of those kinds of things. If you're looking at your financial world and thinking, oh yeah, man, I got some homework to do here, then that would be this is perfect timing for you. In other words, please don't see all of this as a nightmare problem that'll never be solved and your life is just going to end up wallowing in financial misery. No. This is a chance to fix. What the fix looks like, that's a whole other thing. We'll see. But it would be something like having a very clear look at your finances. And I've been just luckily for you, since it's just a tiny crowd tonight, and I'll just indulge a little bit here. I was watching a few finance studies today, and basically the whole world is convulsing right now because the global financial system that's been in place since 1913, with the formation of the Federal Reserve Bank of the United States, has now reached a point of no return. They can't keep pumping up the bubble of fake money and debt forever and ever and ever. It's like being a scammer and everyone's figured out the scam, and nobody wants to play with the scam anymore. Nobody wants to play with the scammers because they've realized we're getting scammed. All right, so in the background, new systems are emerging. Don't take this at the personal level. I'm just doing this as a background. Anyone in the United States who is vested in things like stock markets, bank savings, investments, money market funds, your pensions, all of that stuff is still going to be there, but it's really, really convulsing because a lot of that stuff now depends for its existence on the phenomenon of debasing the United States dollar. That is the mechanism. As the dollar is debased, it takes more and more dollars to buy the same asset. So, in the perverted world of Wall Street and the Fed, it makes it look like your assets are going up and up and up and up and up. Maybe you're all set up with index funds, and so it's just going up and up and up and up and up and up. The Dow, the S&P, the NASDAQ, and so on. And BlackRock, all of those people are involved in one big fat machine that depends heavily on the Fed just literally having any excuse to print more money, because they're not trying to solve a problem. They're just trying to stretch out the scam. And some people are figuring it out, and they're trying to get outside the system. People like me trying to get outside the system. I have very little to lose, so it doesn't matter anyway. But some people, they're used to earning $50,000, $100,000 a year, and they're concerned, especially if they got high overheads, or if you've got, pensions or whatever. And so people are looking for alternatives, and you're seeing it with insane activity in the gold market. Gold prices through the roof, silver through the roof, astronomical historical movements. And that basically indicates deep fear in the existing system. And the default safe haven is gold. That's it. It won't be real estate, it won't be other stocks or bonds or trading or anything like that. It'll just be boring, boring, boring gold. I'm not trying to sell gold, okay? I'm just saying that the whole world is convulsing right now. I've been watching a lot of charts, and it's a very strong indicator that the legacy banking system is extremely fragile. Well, there you go. So that should cheer you up. So, what do you do about that? Because in your own world, you've got your own thing going on. So, new starts and new beginnings. Are you going to realign your personal finances? Like, where does any money come in? Once you've got it, where does it go? Are you living beyond your means? Are you living at your means, paycheck to paycheck? Are you living well within your means and having extra bits aside that you can save or invest or something like that? It's time to figure that out and simplify it and distill the plan going forward. All right, Leah, so what's the challenges here? Oh, okay, with the High Priestess, it feels to me like the challenge is that you're very kind of angry, pissed off, and upset with all the things that have been kept secret from you in the world of finances. For example, in the traditional finance world, your so-called financial advisor is not often your best friend. They are there simply to take your money, seduce you into giving all your spare money to them. They put it into the legacy system. They pay themselves enormous commissions and fees, regardless of how it works for you. And people are waking up and realizing that is not right, that's not fair. And they're also not telling you, in other words, it's lies by omission. They're not telling you how fragile the existing legacy system has become. So that basically means like there's a lot of secrecy out there that the legacy banking people, the financial world, financial advisors, friends and families, whoever's trying to help you with your finances, either they don't know, or there's ignorance, or things that are not healthy are being hidden, so long as the legacy system can keep sucking money out of you for their benefit at your apparent benefit, but in fact at your loss. So be very, 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 very careful. There's secrets going on here. It's a mysterious world. The machinery of finance and banking is very heavily loaded with deception, betrayal, lies, and it's all deliberate. So you have to be extremely careful and understand that. There's no point in being frightened about it. It might help to, study about it and learn a bit more. Let's see. Moving forward, what do we do here? Whoa. Okay, so we've got we got some heavy-duty cards here. Okay, Ivona. So with the Justice card, whatever works, great. Whatever doesn't work, so be it. It's all on you. My feeling is that you may not like to hear this message, Ivona, because a lot of people just want their problems to be solved by some form of magic or external influence, like pressing a button or having a conversation and everything's fixed. But it looks to me in this situation, a lot of this is coming back to you, as you're the one who's going to have to examine your situation, learn about it, understand it in much greater detail for what's working and what's not working, and then to figure out how to repair it. So in other words, the end result is that if it all sucks and falls apart, it's kind of on you. If you can stop any problems and fix them, that's on you too. If you can fully learn the mechanisms of fraud, deception, and betrayal inside the legacy system and then work around that to your benefit, then that's all on you too. So it's like bad, neutral, and good. There's like 3 options. But whichever option, it's all on you. You might not want to hear that. You might want to think, I just want to talk to my financial advisor. No. You're going to have to do a lot of your own homework on this. Try to make your own calculations, and so on. I've had a lot of experience doing this, even though I have absolutely nothing to show for it. So, if we need to, we can go to a deep dive reading. But for now, I hope what I'm saying here makes sense for you, okay? So let's wrap that up over here. And I'm going to shuffle up and get ready for Fluffles, okay? Fluffles, we're up. Let's have a look. I just thought of something, Ivona. If you don't mind, I feel that little mini reading there could be applicable to quite a few people. In case other people watch this show later on, or somebody's watching tonight kind of in the background without checking in or anything. It's almost like we're talking about universal principles here. So, yeah, and it applies to, you know, hundreds of millions of people across planet Earth. We all have to figure out these things, otherwise you end up as a victim. Hello, necessary truths. Ha ha. Welcome. I'm just about to do a mini reading for Fluffles. I just did a reading for Ivona about finance and business. All right, Fluffles, you're up. Gregory's here. Oh my God, we got the whole freaking crowd. Yay, yay. Hey, Gregory. I was at a Christmas event early today with my dear friend, and there was a gentleman walking around, and he had the white whiskers and stuff, and he was all kind of dressed up as Santa Claus, and I kind of had to do a double take. I thought, Gregory? No, I know, I'm stretching things a little bit, but anyway. I should have taken a picture. I was going to get a picture taken, me and Santa Claus, and I was going to send it to you. Pretend it was you and me. All right, let's have a look. All right, necessary. I got your notes earlier. Let me just double check. You're in a funk with work and in your personal life. Wondering if your guides have some guidance for you. Well, of course they have guidance for you. They are your guides. So never fear. All right? Let's have a look. Let's see what's going on. All right, Fluffles. Mom, look at Santa Claus. He's here. Hello. All right, Fluffles, here we go. Oh dear. A bit down in the dumps. Yeah, last reading we did was about the love life, long distance love life and all of that. But again, Fluffles, let me just show the chart, okay? Now, I keep talking about this big fat green triangle here, and it's wonderful, and we got some bonuses today here, and that's fantastic. We got some lightweight support here and here. It all kind of depends where it lies in your chart. But recently, some very stressful aspects occurred about 4 days before the Gaza peace deal. And there was a big fat T-square right here. And I tried to illustrate it like that. So this triangle was sitting on top of this, creating tremendous stress on all the wonderful things potentially going on here. So what I was feeling is that depending on where that particular little point is being sitting, and then also at this point here, this is a very stressful point here. This one and this one together, this is the dominant stressor. So what, like if this was a big deal personal private reading, I'd be watching this spot right here to see where it lands on your chart, which could be, of course, anywhere. And then I would analyze that accordingly. So I just want to, bring the astrology into it as a background so that you have, you can blame the planets, okay? So you're not just sitting there lost and confused, losing hope, like, oh, I don't know what to do. No. All right, here we go. Cards are nicely shuffled. Thank you very much. let's do this. I'm doing a nice big fat cut here. Okay. All right, here's the situation. I just did a talk earlier, I just did a talk earlier about the Libra new moon. Here's the situation. Here's the challenges. Here's how we're going to handle things going down the road. Oh, okay. All right, hold on. Before I go any further, you got a Libra moon. Okay, so I just wanted to point out here, you've got a Libra moon, so it's heading into a new moon over here, conjoined with the sun, at the crisis degrees, right up here. It's going to be really, really tight. So the accent is on, I guess, love and relationships, because it's Libra and it's Venus and all of that. So it's perfectly appropriate for you to be, concerned about your messages. What kind of message that the guides have for you about, work and relationships. It's understandable. And also, because it's the crisis degrees, you might be feeling a very high degree of uneasiness. But again, remember, everything is exactly as it should be. And it's a great opportunity to figure out by looking deep inside of yourself and naming the problem, instead of going, oh, I feel like shit, oh, I don't know what's wrong. Try to sit with it. Get used to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and try to ask your guides to name it. What is the problem here? What is the nature of my uneasiness? Is it to do with trust in the love and relationship, or is it betrayal, or is it confusion, or just day-to-day dysfunctional things that are just not working or workable? Same thing with business and business relationships. And, even put it on paper. What's working? What's not working? Simplify it, okay? And then just sit on that for a bit. Okay, let's have a look. Externals. I'm going to go to the planets here. Okay, so we've got the Seven of Swords here. So my feeling is you've got to be really, really acute. This might feel very uncomfortable for you, which is why you might be feeling uncomfortable right now, to the point where you decided you had to get a little mini reading, because this tells me that the Neptune energy is very strong for you. So I'm going to point to that little specific blob here, right here. We're on the crisis degree, right here and here. And it's a very, very difficult aspect energy to handle. I'll show you. It's right here. This is probably what you're sensing. This little tiny thing right here. Super hyper stressful, but it's very, very deep inside of our soul, our spirit. So it's often very difficult to put language or name it or whatever. You just feel like, oh, I don't know, something like shit. I just want to get drunk. I just want to. I don't want anything to do with anybody. Everybody sucks. Everybody lies, cheats, and steals, and everything. And so it's understandable. Okay. So with the little 7, okay, one of the things about the unhappy, tragic side of Neptune, Pisces, 12th house, is betrayal. Betrayal, lies, deception, lies by omission, deliberate, especially if it's deliberate, so that someone could take advantage of your sweetness, your innocence, your good intentions. There's a lot of this going on in the financial world, by the way. So you have to be very, very careful if you're worried about business, and work relationships and things like that, okay? And so in other words, like with the swords here, it's very much about intellectual energy, things like conversations, phone calls, emails. And with the retrograde, like the leftover hangover effect. If you're feeling like weird hangover effects because of what people have said or emailed or indicated by voice and something doesn't feel quite right, it's because there's something not quite right. And you have to be very, very aware. And the worst thing you could do is pretend that this is not happening. In other words, the circumstantial energy around you right now is loaded with very, very deep levels of very, very subtle forms of betrayal, lies, and deception. Very subtle in ways that you might not feel it as really bad or horrible, but it's still there. And it looks like you're a bit vulnerable to it. You don't. So with the 7 there, it means like it's very much be aware of that, because you don't want to be taken advantage of by other people in business or in love and relationships. And so it means you're going to have to be extra aware. Also on top of this, it means you have to be so acutely aware that you do not allow someone to trespass on your intelligence and your integrity through lies or, again, some form of theft. And instead, for example, okay, here's the only way I can explain it. Let's just say, I don't know, my love triber likes to tell me these stories. Let's say you're at the thrift store and you're a thief and you nab something and you're on your way out the door with your stolen item, and then the cash person says, "Excuse me, hold on a second, were you going to pay for that?" And you kind of go, "Pay for what?" and just walk out the door. Okay? In other words, people are trying to look perfectly ordinary, normal, and innocent, but inside, what's going on is theft, betrayal, lies. And because of the culture the way it is in America right now, it's politically incorrect to call the truth, to call it out for what it is. And then effectively you let the thief go. So my point here with the 7 of Swords, be acutely aware and alert so that the theft does not even occur in the first place. In other words, if you feel some very subtle form of deception, betrayal being perpetrated on you from X person, X situation, and you feel that inside of you, do not deny it. And then you might want to deflect the conversation around the other way and like, well, you know, I think I understand what you're saying, but you know, I'm going to take a pass on that for now. It sounds appealing, but I'm just going to take a pass on it. And then as you, here's another good example. Let's say you're at a car dealership and you're just about to sign the loan agreements on a $10,000 used car, and you've gone right through it all. The car salesman is fantastic. And then you remember, oh my God, there was a lot of recalls on that particular year and model. And you decide at the very, very last second, you're sitting there across the desk, you decide, you know what? Something doesn't feel right here. I'm out of here. I'm sorry to let you down. I don't want to take the car anymore. And you just walk out. Okay, so what's going to happen then? Of course, the salesperson is like, you can't do that. This is the best deal, the best car you're ever going to have for this money. Just sign it. You keep walking. All right? So be very, very careful, because he was trying to sell you a lemon, a dud car. Get it off the lot. And you were going to be the sucker. Okay, so you got to be able to smell, really fine-tune your bullshit meter. Turn it up to 11 and keep it there for the near future, okay? Because you can't afford to be a victim of all the bullshit that's out there. Cut it off before it even happens. Okay, what's the situation? Okay, the Emperor. I don't know if there's someone near you. Maybe this is the guy we're dealing with. Is he starting to express like dominant, controlling type of behavior? In other words, excuse me, woman, I am the male, all-powerful in this situation, and I have been doing all sorts of wonderful, amazing things to tempt you, seduce you, and have you as mine. But there's something not quite working here. Do you understand you are mine? Because I said so. Okay? That's my first impression here. The second impression I'm getting is that you, Fluffles, need to be aware about how some people work, where they will switch on the absolute, what I would just like, the dominance button. Like if a situation is going along okay, but the other party feels threatened, then they start to turn on like super dominance. Like super dominance, to try and take charge of the room, the situation, the deal, the relationship, okay? All right. Okay, so that is not a good energy. The Emperor is great when it's good. One of the most wonderful things is to have a benevolent dictator. In other words, they command that amazing, wonderful things are going to happen to you, for you, because they said so. The worst thing that can happen with this card is this turns into a tyrannical monster, okay? This is the ultimate control freak, chauvinist. This is not pretty. So be aware. If that's in your world right now, that's a walk away. Oh, he's good. It's over. Okay. Oh, good. Right. Well done. Kerblam. Not acceptable. Okay, let's have a look. So, that's good. Okay, the other thing I was going to flip around before is that since you've already acknowledged this and put the notes on the screen there, it's okay for you to give yourself permission to switch on the Emperor button yourself, okay? So it's not acceptable. In other words, if someone's trying to pull this shit on you, the only thing that they respect is absolute power and control. So it means you have to turn that energy on in yourself, which is something that a lot of women don't like to do, because it means having to be the ultimate bitch, okay? You know, the ultimate fuck you, if that's what it takes. Yeah, so that's difficult to handle, because that can get very ugly and very extreme if it's not put in its place, okay? Let's have a look. Let's see what's the challenges here. Aha! See, with the Empress here, wow, to me it feels that you were highly recognized as highly valuable to this character, and you almost lost it by giving away your supreme girl power to this bullshit. Okay? I don't want to say this with too much specificity, okay? So, I've traveled a lot, lived a lot of different places, had to integrate into a lot of different cultures. And there's one thing I do not like, is machismo culture, whether it's from this country or that religion. But when you're in a culture where male dominance is the bedrock of society, to the point of absolute dominance, to the extreme point of abuse of power, which is very, very common across the world. Sadly, billions and billions of people live in those conditions, and it's very, very bad for women and children. I don't like that energy. If I sense it, just even slightly near me, I run. I don't want to be anywhere close to it, because there's nothing good that comes out of it. They might be very charming or impressive, but ultimately, no, not good. Yeah, so that's not acceptable, okay? This is not acceptable. You are not allowed to subvert and bury your own awesomeness to accommodate this. Okay? What I think happened here is that this character discovered this, and instead of being very, very hyper appreciative and loving, he decided, no, I own this, I control this, this is mine. And for you, of course, that is absolutely 100% unacceptable. All right, let's have a look. How do we move forward here? Yeah. Cut it off. Call out the truth for what it is. Give the big fat middle finger either directly or indirectly or through the ether. You don't need any of this. You don't need any of it. It's time to clear the stage, do a cleansing, spiritually, emotionally, physically, romantically, business, life, and everything. Cleanse any relationship that does not respect you at this level. This would have an aura. Now, some people are frightened of this. If you're a very strong, powerful, loving, caring woman, this can be very intimidating energy, especially to machismo type male-dominant culture men. And this can be very intimidating to other women. However, it's not your job to subvert yourself, crush yourself, bury yourself, or hide your own awesomeness to accommodate someone else's fragilities. No. You keep on going, and you live in your truth righteously and proceed accordingly. And if other people can't handle it, that's their problem. Okay? So, I'm going to end on one thing here, is that because this is kind of an extreme situation, you end up living in kind of a rarefied world where you realize there's not a lot of people available at your frequencies. You know, a lot of people are more than happy to really dumb down their own nature and really compromise their beliefs and attitudes just for the sake of having what appears to be a relationship. But what they're doing is committing self-degradation. That's not acceptable for you fluffles, and so you just have to keep living regardless and understand that in your world, hold on. So the cards are basically done. That's your reading. In your world, you just have to keep being your most awesome self. And if others can't handle it, that's their problem. And every now and again, you might bump into someone or someone bumps into you because they are attracted through resonance, and it's reciprocal. You know what I mean? You understand that one? So it's just like attracts like. Someone who is very well integrated, like for example, a very, very highly integrated male who has a lot of power, perhaps money and control, respect, and so on in business or stature or something, but they are very kind, loving, warm, generous, respectful, affectionate, patient, and so on. That does exist, but they would also draw a line for whatever is not acceptable, and they will just obliterate it. I'm going to go completely over the top here, okay, fluffles? just use this as an example. Donald Trump and Melania, okay? I'm sure they have their little awkward moments here and there, but Donald Trump is ultra super male. He's super powerful, super dominant, but he's very, very good at expressing the healthiest form of emperor energy. Peace, love, harmony, and so on. It's very, very, very hard to do. But it doesn't matter whether you like Trump or not. That's not what I'm talking about here. He just happens to be symbolically the type of character that I'm trying to describe. It doesn't mean you're going to meet someone who's like 6'3", 180 pounds, who's really good at golf, and just suddenly falls in love with you and you fall in love with them. I'm not saying that. All I'm suggesting is that at that level, it's power. Power respects power. Integrity, strength, supremacy. The Empress. So do not ever deny your Empress energy. If you have to, you can be like the Melania, where you have that very powerful Empress energy, but you dial it down. You can speak softly and gently to little children and other people, somebody on the street. It's like the Lady Diana energy. She had a lot of that energy. Massive power, massive aura of the Empress, but everybody loved her because she didn't go around like, fuck you, I am the Empress. No, she would go around hugging little girls, having conversations, talking to moms, dads, kids, aunts and uncles. Love. Okay? All right. So anyway, that's your reading. I'll just do a quick visual again so you've got that for reference. There it is. Okay? No bullshit allowed. Okay? Keep the bullshit meter going and acknowledge what it says. You're not allowed to allow yourself to be betrayed. All right. Okay, that's all right. What's this about? Yeah. Okay. What's that? It's a lesson in recognizing the red flags, not making them pink. No. You are the ref of your life, right? Okay? Call the red flag red. It's not pink. It's not fuchsia. It's red. Call it. Oh, I see what you're saying. There's no pink, fuchsia, wishy-washy flags in football. Yeah. Did I tell you about my Lady Diana dreams? Probably not, because they're from long ago. But I used to get quite a lot of Lady Diana dreams. Astrologically, she and I would actually have a lot of fun together. Let's put it that way. Anyway, Lady Di married this guy, Prince Charles, who is now King Charles. And then I think they separated, and then she mysteriously died a horrible death. But while she was alive and while she was Princess Diana, the world absolutely loved her. But deep inside, she was really having a lot of problems with Prince Charles. And for various reasons, I lived in a little tiny village neighborhood that was surrounded by lots of British manor homes and stately mansions and so on and so on, left over from the British Empire. So there were lots of la-di-da people, horseback riding, fox hunting, and lords and ladies everywhere. And, parties, royal parties. And it would come out on the national news. And sometimes they would come over into my area. And whenever that would happen, I would always get a Lady Diana dream. And in the dreams, I would be invited to the party. And I'd be inside the party, and there would be all these, like, you know, super elites. The Duke of this, the Duchess there, Lady so-and-so, the Right Honorable blah blah, and the royal family from here, and all their illustrious children and friends and so on. And then there's Prince Charles over there, and he's screwing somebody over there. And there's Lady Di. It's just like, what the fuck is this? This whole royal family stuff is bullshit. And then she would come over and talk with me, and she'd be crying. She didn't know it wasn't TL back then, but she'd say, like, I don't know, I can't take this stuff. It's just awful. This whole royalty thing, I mean, she was born pretty high up into British society, but I don't think she was prepared for what she encountered at the very highest levels of British society. And it really made her very broken and angry and pissed off and bitter and unloved. And that's why she ended up having various affairs. And she liked hanging out with me because I would just tell it how it is. And I would just be like a really good friend to her. And so we always had these, like, it was just like sitting in the corner of one of the rooms of a mansion and having these deep conversations. So those were my Lady Di dreams. There you go. Okay, so Fluffles, thank you for your reading. Thank you for picking TarotLumination. Thank you, Ivona. Unless I have any other more readings, I'm going to get going. I'm going to shut it down in just a minute. Got to double check something here to make sure. Oops, excuse me. Oh God, the computer is just... Ugh. Okay, I think we're good. Let's just wrap it up here, folks. Good. Good. All right, so I hope you all got something out of these mini readings. I like the idea that here at our little boutique artisanal campfire setting, the readings resonate beyond the individual level, and anybody who watches these videos later on, they can think to themselves, wow, you know, it's like that reading was meant for me, you know? Oh, what? What's that? Hello, Diana. I didn't see you. I just wanted to say hi. I know I'm late. Have a good one. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Well, good night, Diana. Good night, Fluffles. Good night, Ivona. Good night, Gregory. Good night, Heba. I forgot who that was. I'm sorry. And anyone else.